Okay, so first off, thanks so much. My first question is, what brought you to Be Light Care Consulting? What sort of personal experiences have you had that made you want to do this?
Yeah. So my name's Adria Thompson. I am a speech language pathologist by background. So after grad school, I really thought that I wanted to work with children. And so I going all through school with speech therapy, that's what I had in mind. But then when I graduated, I had a rotation in a nursing home working with older people, and I surprisingly really loved it. So I spent 8 years working in long-term care communities, so nursing homes, assisted living, and memory care communities. And I just gained a lot of experience in working with geriatrics. But my heart really was with my patients with dementia. I saw that often they were not um, advocated for well. They didn't always have a voice. And that is really what I'm drawn to, is really speaking on behalf of people, helping facilitate them advocating for themselves. So I started specializing in dementia by taking as much training as I possibly could in that area. And I kind of built a reputation for working with people with dementia. So I started moving into a leadership role in the job that I had in training other therapists and working with people with dementia. And after a couple of years of that, my husband got a job. We were living in Kentucky. He got a job in Washington State. So I had to quit my job. And I decided at that point to just start my own business. I'd been doing all this training for other companies, and I thought I could do this myself. So that's kind of where Be Like Care started.
Mm-hmm. So for the people who don't know, what is dementia? What are some of the common characteristics around dementia?
Yeah. Dementia is an umbrella term, is what we say. So it just means that it's a condition, much in the same way that we call like mental health. That's an umbrella term. Every disease that falls under the category of mental health have similar components, but the symptoms are different, right? So we might have depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and they all have a common basis of being involved with mental health, but they all have different symptoms. In the same way, dementia is an umbrella term, and all we know about when someone says that they have dementia are two things. The first, that means that they have had a change in their brain. So that is affecting their thinking. So that can be memory. Memory is a very commonly understood symptom, memory losses of dementia, but it's not the only one. We can also have changes in communication, in problem solving, safety awareness. It can also change someone's personality and their behavior. So that first component is that they have a change in the brain and a change in thinking. And the second is that change in their brain is affecting their everyday life. So it's affecting their ability to care for themselves. So most people with dementia are older, um, but not everyone. It can happen under the age of 65, but it is also a condition that gets worse or it's degenerative.
Mm-hmm. You talk about that dementia doesn't only apply to older adults, but can apply to other folks as well. Because I've heard about early onset dementia,
That's
and
right.
yeah. My next question is, what are some of the key statistics around dementia? Because people often think, oh, dementia happens among older adults, but
Mhm.
sometimes it's not the case.
You're right. Yeah. The term early onset and young onset means the same thing, but basically both of those terms mean that it's dementia in someone under the age of 65. So the most common type of dementia, the most common diagnosis for someone younger is what's called frontotemporal dementia, which we've heard it in the news recently because that is the kind of dementia that Bruce Willis has and Wendy Williams. So that's kind of the big times that we've heard of FTD, that frontotemporal dementia before. But in general, dementia across the world, it affects, I think the World Health Organization says that it's currently affecting 55 million people. It's more common in women and it's more common in people of color. And we know that statistically the rates of dementia are increasing over time. And so, especially with the baby boomers who are aging right now, they're 50s and 60 years old, we know that there is going to be a big boom of individuals with dementia in the next 20 years. So it's really, really critically important that we all understand what dementia is and what it looks like so that we can help people when we see it happening.
Hmm. My next question is, what are you guys doing at Be Like Care Consulting to really help those with dementia and other, related
Mhm.
disorders?
Yeah. So the main thing that I do here at Be Like Care Consulting is I create videos to help caregivers know how to care for individuals with dementia. Because often what happens when I was working as a speech therapist, and I also now have a grandmother with a diagnosis of dementia, what I saw is that once someone is diagnosed, the doctors will tell them to get their affairs in order. They will tell them to get a will together and advance directives. But as far as daily tips and how to care for someone, there's not really anybody guiding caregivers and knowing how to get someone to drink more water or to take a shower if they think they already have, or to stop driving when it becomes dangerous. And so really that's what I do. That's the gap I feel. I fill. I create videos that are anywhere from 15 to 90 seconds long about how to do those really practical things that we have to do every day. And I explain these concepts in really easy to understand terms. And all of my videos are free. They're on social media, so on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. I also do consultations one-on-one with caregivers around the world through Zoom. And then I also have a few courses, like how to get someone with dementia to shower. And then I also have a Dementia 101 course currently, but I have more in the works.
Hmm. My next question is, how do you guys go about sort of providing care for people with dementia? Because, like you said, you provide videos and tips for people, caregivers. So, like, what sorts of strategies or tools do you use to help guide them, throughout the process of taking care of their loved one?
Yeah. I think the most essential piece of information that a caregiver can have is about dementia itself. So, understanding the disease and what symptoms are expected. So, for example, a lot of people with dementia don't realize that they have dementia. And often caregivers will notice this and they will assume that that person is in denial, that they're just being stubborn, that they're unwilling to accept that they have dementia. But actually, we know neurologically there is a condition called anosognosia, which means that someone is unaware of their deficits or unaware of their diagnosis. And that's not due to stubbornness, that is due to the part of the brain that is damaged. The brain has to be working fully functioning in the frontal lobe to be able to be aware that you have a condition. And so, a lot of the education I do helps caregivers understand that people with dementia are not choosing their behavior or the differences that they see in them. And except instead of all of that, they're having experiences, they're having symptoms of a brain disease. And so that's the foundation of the information that I give caregivers is to help them understand and acknowledge it in more of a medical scenario so that they can see the person underneath in a more clear light. So I teach a lot of non-confrontational approaches. So if someone says, I've already showered today, instead of saying things like, no, you haven't, it's been 2 weeks and you stink, we can say, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. And then consider how can we get someone to shower again in their mind, right? So really helping caregivers understand the neurological point of view, understanding how we can come alongside people and really provide them the care that they need.
Hmm. My next question is, what have you heard from folks, using these kinds of services from Be Like Care Consulting? What have they told you about, their experiences with using, Be Like Care Consulting?
Yeah, I think that social media has a reputation, especially things like TikTok, for having like really terrible comments and people being mean and like leaving bad reviews. But I can say that my the community that I experience on social media are so positive and so encouraging. And I love getting messages. I get them every single day from people saying, like, hey, I tried this technique that you talked about yesterday and it worked. And we were able to get my dad to shower for the first time in a month. Um, Someone just last week sent me an email saying that in their father's obituary, who he had just passed away with dementia, that they promoted my videos because they said it was so life-changing for their family. And it's just like it's so wild to me that these little videos I do in my living room can make such a big difference, but it is really, really powerful for caregivers to get the information that they need so that they can provide a better life for the person that they love.
Yeah, because a lot of them, a lot of these loved ones just don't know. They're like, what do I do? Who do I turn to?
Exactly. Mhm.
My last question is, how can Be Like Care Consulting, be that next step for folks, who have a loved one with dementia or other, related conditions? How can Be Like Care Consulting help those folks, guide them to, figure out what's best for their loved ones?
Yeah. I make it a really intentional point to make sure that I cover topics that span the beginning to the end of the experience of dementia. So I have videos about what to do when you suspect someone in your life might have dementia, walk them through the diagnosis process, about the different types and stages of dementia. We talk about activities and care tips, and then we talk about end of life and the care services that are available. So the difference between what's a memory care and assisted living, independent living, all the different types of medical providers and what services they provide. And I also work with a lot of companies and organizations and brands to promote their products and services to caregivers. So I talk about phones that are really great for people with dementia, or walkers or transfer poles. We talk about different eating utensils and clothing that might be adaptive. So really, the videos on my page, and soon actually I'll be having an app created. So hopefully soon we'll have all of these videos on an app that are really searchable and accessible. So whatever stage you're in, whatever question you have, there will be content there for you. And if there's not, you can reach out and I'll be sure to make it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good to know.